Introducing the 2026 USA Women's World Cup qualifying team. And on the graphic, you have Aaliyah Boston, Chelsea Gray, and in the little bitty Ryan Howard. Now, my question is simple here. Where is Caitlin Clark? Where's the moneymaker? Where's the needle mover? Where's the name that everybody knows? Where's the name that draws the most viewership? Where's the name that draws the most attention?
USA Basketball has officially announced the 2026 Women's World Cup qualifying roster. On the surface, it's a strong group: established veterans, rising stars, proven winners, and young players stepping into bigger international roles. But, as always with Team USA, the conversation doesn't stop at the names. It moves toward positioning, presentation, and hierarchy. The games will run March 11th through 17th in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The United States already secured qualification by winning the 2025 Women's AmeriCup, so this window is less about survival and more about structure. It's about roles, it's about identity, it's about what direction the program signals heading into the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup in Berlin. The roster includes players like Aaliyah Boston, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, De'Arica Hamby, Ryan Howard, Angel Reese, Paige Buckers, and Caitlin Clark, among others. On paper, that blend of experience and emerging talent should comfortably handle a qualifying stretch like this. The basketball part is not complicated. The United States should win these games. The deeper discussion is about how this group is structured and what it says about the program's internal priorities. This conversation did not begin in 2026. It traces back to the 2024 Olympic roster decision, when Caitlin Clark was left off the team. At the time, the explanation centered around experience, seniority, and respect for the pipeline. Veterans had earned their place. The program valued continuity. That reasoning carried weight in some circles. But it also sparked debate, because USA Basketball has historically made room for transcendent talent when the moment called for it. The precedent exists. So the conversation was never simply about whether a rookie could make a roster. It was about timing, hierarchy, and comfort inside the system. Now, Clark is on the roster. At this stage of her career, leaving her off would be difficult to justify. She has proven she can handle professional competition. She has demonstrated impact on the court and influence off it. The league numbers, attendance, and visibility have shifted dramatically during her presence. But being selected and being centered are not identical. Selection is a basketball decision. Centering is a structural decision. That distinction is where most of the tension lives. From a pure basketball perspective, the optimal starting lineup for this qualifying window is fairly straightforward. In international competition, pace and early advantage creation matter.
Let's go further. Where's Caitlin Clark on this? Where's the second most noticeable name, Paige? Where's Paige at? Where are they at, Team USA? You know what this tells me? And I hope it's not true. I hope it's not true that Caitlin Clark's not starting on this team. If Team USA, and I'm telling you right now, if Chelsea Gray starts over Caitlin Clark for these qualifying games, I'm going to take my table and I'm going to toss it upside down. In no world should Chelsea Gray start over Cece. No world. Sit on the edge of the bench, Chelsea, and get carried to this ring. The game's passed you by. Sorry, not really. But Ben, do you see what she's doing in Unrivaled? Wait, you're not going to use Unrivaled to calm your horses.
A guard who stretches the defense beyond the arc changes the geometry immediately. That's why Clark's skill set translates strongly to FIBA play. Her range extends beyond any specific three-point line. Her passing is anticipatory. She forces defensive adjustments before the half-court offense even settles. Pairing her with Paige Buckers creates a dynamic backcourt capable of scoring at multiple levels while maintaining secondary playmaking. Buckers' efficiency and feel for spacing complement Clark's tempo and gravity. On the wing, Ryan Howard adds athleticism and shot creation. De'Arica Hamby brings versatility and veteran stability at forward. Aaliyah Boston anchors the interior with rebounding, rim protection, and physical presence. That five balances skill, experience, and modern spacing principles. Seeing Clark and Angel Reese share the floor again also presents an interesting tactical layer. Reese thrives in transition and on second-chance opportunities. Clark thrives in tempo and early advantage creation. That pairing isn't about storyline, it's about functional fit. The coaching staff adds another layer to the conversation. Stephanie White is part of this staff and also serves as Clark's head coach with the Indiana Fever. In theory, familiarity should simplify lineup optimization. Coaches who understand a player's rhythm, strengths, and comfort zones can deploy them effectively. But USA Basketball has long operated within a culture that values continuity and veteran respect. That culture is not inherently negative. It has produced championships. The United States will enter Berlin chasing a 5th straight world title and its 12th overall. Sustained dominance is not accidental. The question is whether dominance and modernization can operate simultaneously. International basketball does present different variables. The court dimensions alter spacing angles. FIBA rules around goaltending differ. Physicality can feel heavier because the game flows without as many stoppages. Guards who create early separation and make quick reads often thrive in that environment. Clark's skill set aligns well with those conditions. Booker's game also translates. However, any player coming off a significant ACL recovery timeline typically regains full explosiveness incrementally. That reality does not diminish talent, it simply adds context. Ultimately, the debate is less about who deserves a spot and more about how roles are defined. Is the starting lineup built purely on current performance metrics, or is it influenced by relationship equity, seniority, and long-standing program structure? Qualifying games may not determine medals, but they do establish identity. The first rotation becomes narrative. The first closing lineup becomes signal. Early impressions often carry forward into larger tournaments. If Clark controls tempo and closes games in San Juan, that clarity simplifies decisions heading into Berlin. If roles are split conservatively to preserve balance within the hierarchy, the interpretation will follow accordingly. This moment also intersects with broader growth in women's basketball. The sport is experiencing expanded attention, increased viewership, and greater mainstream conversation. When momentum surges, every institutional decision feels magnified. USA Basketball is not simply managing a roster, it is managing transition between eras. Veterans who built the foundation remain vital. Emerging stars expanding the audience are equally important. Sustainable growth depends on harmonizing both realities. The United States will likely win these games comfortably. The more revealing element will be who initiates offense, who closes tight stretches, and who becomes the focal point when possessions matter most. It is never just about one graphic, one lineup, or one qualifying window. It is about alignment between performance, presentation, and progression. San Juan will provide the first public indication of how that alignment is being handled. Berlin will test it under championship pressure. For now, the roster is set. The names are official. The structure, however, will reveal itself once the ball goes up, and when it does, the rotations will speak louder than any announcement ever could. Once the ball goes up in San Juan, the conversation shifts from projection to proof. Depth charts and graphics disappear. What remains is usage rate, shot distribution, tempo, body language, substitution patterns, and who the staff trusts when the margin tightens. That's where real clarity emerges. Because international windows like this are rarely about whether the United...
But she will be joining them for training camp March 7th through the 8th. Now, Mick Talks Hoops. Shout out to Mick. He puts out a tweet. This app is going to be hilarious when none of Caitlin, Paige, or Angel are starting for Team USA, and it ends up being Aaliyah and 4 players over 30. Let me add to this. It's going to be worse knowing Caitlin Clark's not on the starting lineup when you realize her own coach isn't even advocating her to be on the starting lineup. Newsflash. You think, let's take a look. Hey, Stephanie, who do you think we should go with to start? Caitlin Clark, the player on your team, the generational talent, or Chelsea Gray?
United States wins. They're about how they win. Do they dictate pace from the opening tip? Do they lean into modern spacing and early offense? Or do they slow the game down to preserve familiarity and hierarchy? The difference matters. If the offense runs through Caitlin Clark early, you'll see it immediately. The ball will cross half court faster. The weak side defender will hesitate a step higher. The big will be forced to show further from the paint. Even possessions that don't end in threes will feel stretched. That's gravity. That's structural pressure on a defense. If instead the offense opens conservatively, prioritizing half-court sets and veteran initiation, that tells you something else. It suggests continuity over experimentation, stability over acceleration. Neither approach is automatically wrong, but they represent two different philosophies about where this program is headed. The presence of Paige Buckers complicates the conversation in a productive way. She is not simply a secondary option. She is capable of being the focal point on any possession. Her footwork, her efficiency from mid-range, her poise in tight windows, all of it translates internationally. When paired with Clark, the question becomes whether the staff empowers dual initiation or staggers responsibility. Do they share control, or does one defer early while the other establishes rhythm? That balance is subtle but powerful. It shapes perception inside and outside the locker room. Then there's Aaliyah Boston. Boston's role may be the least controversial and the most essential. International play rewards interior anchors who understand timing. Defensive 3 seconds are different. Help positioning shifts. Boston's ability to seal early in transition and protect the rim without fouling provides structural stability no matter which guard initiates. On the wing, Ryan Howard offers length and scoring bursts. If the game speeds up, she benefits. If it slows down, she can operate as a secondary creator. That flexibility becomes critical in tournaments where opponents adjust game to game. And then there's Angel Reese. Her rebounding translates anywhere. Extra possessions travel well across rulebooks. The question isn't whether she produces, it's how often she's positioned in lineups that maximize her motor. Fast lineups amplify her strengths. Slower sets can compress her impact. Veterans like Chelsea Gray and Kelsey Plum bring championship composure. They understand late clock reads. They understand tournament nerves. Their presence is not symbolic, it's functional. But how they are integrated alongside younger stars defines whether this is a transition moment or a preservation moment. This is where coaching philosophy becomes visible. Stephanie White understands Clark's cadence intimately from their time with the Indiana Fever. That familiarity should, in theory, eliminate guesswork. But USA basketball environments are layered. Assistant voices matter. Institutional habits matter. The senior team program has long rewarded continuity and deference. The assistants, including Nate Tibbetts and Natalie Nakase, are stepping into senior national team roles for the first time. Fresh perspectives sometimes push evolution, but first-time voices also navigate internal dynamics carefully. Advocacy requires confidence. Systems reward alignment. So the opening 5 in San Juan won't just be tactical, it will be symbolic. If Clark starts and is given early primary control, it signals the program is comfortable aligning visibility with responsibility. If she starts but operates off-ball for stretches while veterans initiate, that suggests balance management. If she comes off the bench in a qualifying window, that would spark an entirely different interpretation about comfort levels within the hierarchy.
Represent the U.S. at the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament in San Juan from March 11th to the 17th, 2026. The USA, who have already qualified for the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup in Berlin by winning the 2025 Women's AmeriCup, bring a mix of veterans and newcomers to the 6-team round-robin tournament. The roster features 2024 Olympic gold medalists Ka Copper, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young. Dearica Hamby and Ryan Howard, they won bronze at the 2024 Paris Games. USA won bronze. Hold up. Hold up. USA won the bronze medal, 2024 3v3. Not gold. Bronze?
And hierarchy is not inherently negative. Every championship program has one. The tension emerges when hierarchy resists adaptation during moments of rapid growth. Women's basketball is experiencing one of those moments. The surge in attention isn't abstract. Attendance numbers have climbed, television viewership has shifted, social media engagement spikes around specific players and matchups. That doesn't diminish veteran contributions. It simply adds another variable to the equation: expansion. Expansion demands elasticity. The 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup in Berlin will not just be about defending a title, it will be about sustaining momentum in a global market that is finally accelerating. International tournaments are branding stages as much as competitive arenas. The players who draw casual fans into the ecosystem matter in those settings. Clark's shooting range alters broadcast angles. Bucker's efficiency sustains narrative arcs. Reese's motor fuels physical sequences that translate into highlights. Boston's interior dominance grounds the spectacle. Gray and Plum stabilize high-pressure possessions. The optimal outcome isn't choosing between eras, it's blending them without diluting impact. San Juan is effectively the rehearsal. Rotations during blowouts may not matter much. Rotations in 6-point games do. Who closes against a physical opponent? Who handles late clock traps? Who takes the last shot when momentum wavers? Those decisions shape Berlin before Berlin ever arrives. There's also the FIBA geometry to consider. The three-point line differences adjust help angles. Corner spacing feels tighter. Defensive rotations happen quicker. Guards who shoot comfortably from well beyond the arc stretch defenses even further than usual because opponents hesitate to overhelp. That's part of why Clark's translation argument remains strong. Her range doesn't depend on the arc's exact placement, it extends beyond it. That forces defenders into earlier commitments, which opens lanes for cutters like Reese and Howard. Boston thrives in compressed spaces, using footwork and touch to navigate mid-range pockets. That skill becomes valuable when defenses adjust to perimeter gravity. Boston benefits when spacing stretches wide. She seals deeper. Offensive rebounds fall cleaner when weak side defenders are pulled higher. Everything connects. If the staff leans into those synergies early in San Juan, the identity becomes clear. Modern, pace-oriented, gravity-driven. If instead lineups prioritize ceremonial balance, leaning heavily on veteran familiarity without fully unlocking perimeter stretch, the identity leans traditional. Again, neither guarantees failure. The United States talent base is overwhelming, but optimization matters when margins tighten against elite opponents. The larger question isn't whether USA basketball wins qualifying games. It's whether leadership recognizes that this era demands alignment between performance and growth. Because growth doesn't sustain itself automatically. Momentum can plateau if fans feel their excitement is peripheral rather than central. Casual audiences don't analyze substitution charts the way analysts do, but they feel when stars are empowered. They feel when the pace matches expectation. They feel when the product embraces the moment it's living in. If San Juan reflects courage, tactically and structurally, that confidence carries forward. If it reflects caution, the conversation continues, and conversations shape perception. By the time Berlin arrives, roles will feel established. Early windows create habits. Habits create trust. Trust defines championship runs. So watch the details in Puerto Rico. Watch the first two possessions. Watch who initiates after a defensive stop. Watch who handles late game inbounds. Watch who the huddle turns toward when the play breaks down. Those are the signals. Because this isn't just about one qualifying stretch. It's about whether USA basketball is evolving alongside the sport's acceleration or trying to manage it incrementally. The roster is strong. The talent is undeniable. The championships speak for themselves. Now the only question left is alignment. When performance, presentation, and progression move in the same direction, programs extend dynasties. When they hesitate between eras, momentum slows. San Juan will not determine medals, but it will determine message. And in a moment like this, message matters just as much as margin of victory.